Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 150. Jana Waller, wishes for warriors, the healing power of hunting, success, big muleys, and Kansas whitetails. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Today's sponsors, Morse's Sporting Goods. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
I'm Chrissy Titus. I'm co-host of RMES Female Television Show and NRA I Am Forever. Gear up for another amazing episode with Jay and Dusty on the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
This is Nick Percy from Killer Food Plots, and you're listening to my favorite deer hunting podcast, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey, this is Travis T-Bone Turner with Bone Collector and Realtree Road Trips, and you're about to listen to another great episode of the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. My name is Jay, and I'm also joined by my friend Dusty Phillips, and we both want to say thank you for pushing the play button on your iDevice or your phone or whatever it is you're listening to us right now. We've got your ear for an hour. I got to tell you, we've got another great show lined up. What's happening, Dusty?
Oh, man, just replaying back the turkey hunt in New Hampshire. Oh, my gosh, Jay, what an amazing trip we had, and I'm already thinking about it next year, really. It's crazy.
I had, you know what, it's already been a dream season for me because a couple big things happened. Number one is I got to have my good buddy Dusty come up from Ohio and get him tagged out. Would have liked to have Mike tagged out as well. Obviously, Greg tagged out. But then my son tagged out just on Sunday. So it's already been a dream season, and I haven't even pulled the trigger yet.
It's just crazy how good New Hampshire turkey hunting is. I mean, it's really unbelievable, Jay.
It really is good. I mean, we had my son, you know, when you spend that time in the woods with your kids, there's definitely it's a special moment. You'll never forget it. And they'll never forget it. They're excited. They're to the point where as this bird was strutting in, I turned and my son whispered to me, "Dad, I'm so nervous." And it just makes you feel so darn good about.
You can't buy memories like that.
You cannot buy that. There is nothing more fulfilling than being there with your son or daughter and being in that moment of elation and knowing exactly what they're talking about because you're feeling it too. It's just a priceless moment. This big Tom strutted in. Started around 60 yards out, got into 20, gave my son the 12 gauge. He's only 8 years old, and I'm sitting there coaching him through it, basically just trying to calm him down enough so he could take the shot. And as soon as he passes by, or as soon as the Tom passed the telephone pole on the power lines, I said, just let him have it, just like your Nerf gun, put that bead right on top of his head. He pulled the trigger, the bird flew up about 10 feet, died in the air, and dropped to the ground. And he could not have been more excited. The elation, the entire experience, and to this day, right? I mean, it's only been a week, but this is going to last forever. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, take your kids hunting. It's some of the most fulfilling activities you'll ever have.
Yeah, I can feel you, Jay. It's when Daisy shot her first coyote at 4 years old. Holy cow, dude! It was mind blowing.
Right, and talk about forming bonds and relationships with your kids that goes deeper than anything that you could do if you weren't experiencing stuff like that. Because I can't think of anything else in life really that would make you bond as much as a hunt will. There are very few things in life that'll do that with a child. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that. And it's just amazing the whole experience. And you got to go into a hunt like that with an open mind and with the attitude that whatever happens. If they're there for an hour and they want to go home, that's what you do. You don't push them, you don't pressure them, you don't get upset if they miss. It changes your whole mindset when you're out there with not only your own kid, but a youth hunter in particular. You just got to take your time and let them enjoy it, and they'll want to go back.
Right. And, I don't push them to go. We went day 1. I woke him up 2 days in a row to go days 2 and 3. He wanted to sleep in. I didn't push him. And then I went to on day 4. He still didn't want to go. And then he said, I want to go on Sunday. And we did. And we got it done. And forevermore, we'll never forget that exact hunt. He's 8. I'm going on 45. But for the rest of our lives, we will never, ever forget that. And he will probably share that with my grandkids when that happens. So it's just a priceless moment. So fantastic.
Yeah. You cannot buy memories like that. For sure.
Now, some of the things that our guest today is doing is also priceless, I have to say. She spends an awful lot of time working with veterans who are disabled, and I think disabled is a bad word, but that she gets together with veterans coming back who are missing limbs, gets them out in the field, gets them hunting. Those are also priceless moments. So the person we're talking about is Jana Waller. She's doing some amazing things in the woods with veterans who have lost limbs, and she's getting them in the woods. Jana's an amazing hunter. She hunts a lot. She's had a great season last year, and we got to catch up with Jana Waller on this show because we've had Jana on the show before. But she's just a class act. I absolutely have the utmost respect for Jana. She does some amazing things. So I'm psyched to have her back on the show.
Jay, before we get to Jana Waller, let's get to Jim Keller with the deer news.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the deer news. St. Louis Suburb approves bow hunting for deer. This article was reported by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch as a follow-up to our original report on this story. The Ladue City Council gave final approval on Monday to regulations that allow for archery and crossbow hunting of deer. Last month, the council had considered a previous version of the legislation meant to control the deer population that would have allowed hunting on a minimum of 3 acres. The measure that got final approval allows bow hunting on properties of at least 2 acres. Owners of smaller contiguous properties, each individually less than 2 acres, could cooperate so that hunting could take place on a combined site that meets the minimum. A January count of deer in the city showed in the range of about 43 per square mile. The legislation also mandates that, among other things, hunting could only take place during the state's archery deer season. Owners of property in which hunting takes place would have to notify the city and contiguous neighbors of intentions to hunt there. Hunters would have to carry written permission for hunting from property owners and have a current state hunting permit. No archery or crossbow device could be discharged across a street, sidewalk, or playground within 30 yards of a building or vehicle without the owner's permission, or within 200 yards of a church, school, or playground. And finally, all hunting must be conducted from an elevated stand at least 10 feet high and facing the interior of the property. Expert calls New York proposal to sterilize deer a really stupid plan. This article was originally reported by OutdoorHub.com. Many experts believe Staten Island's plan to give Bambi a vasectomy won't work. Sterilization has long been floated as an alternative to traditional methods of keeping the deer population low, such as hunting or hiring sharpshooters. Some experts are shaking their head over Staten Island's proposed $2 million deer sterilization program. Bernd Blasi, a Cornell University biologist who has consulted for the program, told the Staten Island Advance recently that the plan was ludicrous. It's difficult for me to come up with all the reasons why this is a really stupid plan, Blasi said. It's ridiculous from the onset. Blasi is not the only wildlife expert that feels that way either. Several other experts brought in to assess the situation also say the plan has little chance of success. The problem is that Staten Island now has an estimated 1,000 deer, far more than the borough can support. The deer are starting to invade residents' gardens, create a hazard for motorists, and are generally becoming an ecological disaster. City officials believe the plan will reduce the deer population by up to 30%. That sounds good on paper, but putting it into practice will be harder than it sounds, say experts. This proposal has no chance of success whatsoever, Paul Curtis, an ecologist also with Cornell University, told the New York Post. Curtis was part of another attempt in Ithaca to sterilize bucks with vasectomies, but he noted in that case only 3 animals were sterilized before the program was called off. The reason was not only that it was costly and time-intensive, but also because it was dangerous work. The proposal still has to be approved by the State Department of Environmental Conservation before it can go into effect. Officially, the department does not recommend sterilization attempts due to their checkered history. If approved, the program could begin as early as this fall. For additional details on this story, including links to the original article, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. Arkansas deer disease findings prompt Missouri to increase sample collecting. This article was originally reported by Alyssa Nelson on MissouriNet.com. The discovery this spring of 86 cases of chronic wasting disease, or CWD, in northern Arkansas has led the Missouri Department of Conservation, the MDC, to increase the sample collection for testing of the disease. As has been MDC's procedure since Missouri's first positive CWD case was confirmed in 2010, the agency has increased sample collecting and surveillance around areas where the disease had been found. A focus area 50 miles from Arkansas's CWD positive test sites has been established. This consists of the Missouri counties of Berry, Christian, Douglas, Ozark, Stone, and Taney. Since mid-spring, MDC staff has increased efforts in these counties to collect samples from sick and road-killed deer to test for CWD. To date, more than 51,000 deer have been tested for CWD in Missouri. A total of 27 cases of the disease have been confirmed in the state. These have been found in the northeast, central, and east-central portions of the state. At present, no animals collected from southern Missouri have tested positive for CWD. MDC is maintaining close contact with the Arkansas Game and Fish personnel to monitor findings and collaboratively interpret what this means for Missouri. For more information on this story, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. Soil temperature is key to successful corn crops. This story is from an article written by Kip Adams on the QDMA website. Inconsistent weather the past few springs creates varying timing for the planting of corn. Corn needs 55 to 56 degree soil temperatures to germinate. This can be monitored easily with an inexpensive meat thermometer. Plant too early, and you risk losing your crop. Plant too late, and you sacrifice the number of days the corn can grow before the onset of cool weather. Soil temperatures can vary widely based on daily air temperatures and the presence of ground cover. High seed prices and seed shortages create other challenges for food plotters. Seed stored from year to year will lose the potential for germination, so try not to overpurchase your seed. Check with local farmers, as sometimes they have leftover seed. For more information on planting corn or other food plot plant species, check out the QDMA website. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller with the Deer News. And without further ado, here is Jana Waller. Jana Waller, welcome back to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. How's it going?
Great. Thanks so much for having me back. It must have gone okay the first time.
It went fantastically, of course.
Oh, good.
So what the heck have you been up to?
Oh, we've been hunting, been hunting and fishing, basically. What I do 24/7, but just had a turkey hunt this week here in Montana. Was running and gunning the Montana mountains for 3 days before finally finding success with a tom that got a bit greedy. But got my bird 2 days ago. Now I getting geared up, packing all my stuff. We've got a turkey hunt we head out for tomorrow over in a different part of the state, over in Billings, where I'll be meeting up with 2 veterans from Wishes for Warriors and take 2 guys on their first turkey hunt. So hunting like crazy.
That's fantastic. That's what you do. That's what you do for a living, right?
Yeah, really. I mean, it really is. I've been really, really blessed. Right now we're airing our season 5 of Skullbound TV on the Sportsman's Channel. And, I've been an outdoor writer for about 10, 12 years now. So really hunting is definitely not a hobby. It's basically consumes my life, and I'm blessed to be able to say that.
I love it too, and I don't make a living at it, but I'm trying to, and we're getting there. So I love it when I hear a story that somebody actually did that, and it makes me feel good inside. And I love what you're doing with the Wishes for Warriors. That's fantastic.
Thank you. I come from a point of view of sort of a new, if you will, considered in the last 6-7 years, a newly found appreciation for our veterans. Of course I've always had an appreciation, but not to the level that I have in the last 6-7 years because of Skullbound, really. My producer is Jim Kinsey, a former Marine. Mm-hmm. A lot of my sponsors are veterans. And when you start sharing campfires with people who have literally seen hell and back, meaning war, just makes you really appreciate what's going on, overseas and even behind the scenes that our military goes through defending this great country. And, here I am, a woman living in the greatest country on the planet, being able to have any career I want, practice any religion I want, lead any lifestyle I want, own as many guns as I want. And those are, we can't take that for granted. And so I teamed up with Wishes for Warriors, whose main goal is just to get combat veterans back into the woods and on the water fishing, and, to have a brotherhood here, stateside too. And it's just a wonderful group. And I've had so much fun the last couple of years taking these guys out and watching the healing power of Mother Nature.
There really is some scientific studies to the whole idea of being out in the forest. And they've tested like cortisol levels, which is really good for your immune system. And they found it to really spike when you're in the forest, more so than when you're in the city around asphalt. So there is there is a healing property to it that goes well beyond our knowledge, I am sure.
Absolutely. In the woods, on the water, and there's a whole nother component to like Wishes for Warriors, for example, and that's the bonding of these men and women with other hunters and bonding with other veterans. Usually, Wishes for Warriors always has an ambassador on the hunt, whether it's the founder, Brian Marshall, or one of the other ambassadors. So these new guys sort of who reached out for help or reached out of needing to, have a little R&R or get back into the woods or on the water, they have a person they can connect with stateside. And once that hunt is over or that fishing trip is over, Wishes is a family. We all stay in contact with each other. We all text each other all the time, and we're here for one another. And so, the healing power of Mother Nature is a wonderful thing, but it's even more so than that reconnection and that bond. And, hunting, I've had people, maybe a couple of naysayers say, well, how does killing an animal going to help a veteran? Well, first off, anyone who says something like that has no idea what hunting is all about. But second of all, it's more deeper than that. It's about the bonds that these mostly men, combat veterans, are recreating now that they're back stateside.
Right. And that's the whole point of hunting.
Yeah.
It's not about killing animals. It's the bonding that you have with the very people that you were doing it with. That's it. And
absolutely. I say in the open of my show that it's not about killing. It's all about living. And that encompasses everything about what we're talking about. The bonding of the people, the connection to our food, the fresh air in your lungs and feeling alive outdoors, and that healing power we talked about. Like, that's what hunting is all about. It is never about just pulling a trigger or a trophy.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, Janna, how did you get started with the whole program?
It's funny that you say that. I was at SHOT Show 2 years ago, walking the floor, of course, having a lot of meetings with sponsors. And in one of my sponsors' booths, which was Nemo Arms, an awesome AR company here out of Montana, I happened to meet Brian Marshall. And he had a big Wishes for Warriors t-shirt on, had some of the boys with him, and we just got to talking. And I had already done a couple of other veteran hunts just on my own. Happened to, I met Bo Richenbeck, for example, who is a double amputee Navy SEAL here from Montana. We took him out on an elk hunt. I met Greg Stubbe, who is a 23-year Green Beret, who was blown out of his Humvee. Took him on his first turkey hunt. So I've done individual turkey hunts on this show before with veterans. And so what happens then is so many different veteran groups come at you. And I had really been looking for one I could really focus my energy and time on, because otherwise it's just too hard to sort of keep track of everything and all the details that go into a hunt. So in the back of my mind, I'd been kind of looking for an organization that I could really get behind and be a part of. And I happened to meet Brian. Well, the week after SHOT Show, we talked on the phone for probably 3 hours. And I fell in love with his attitude of why he founded Wishes, because his best friend from high school, they both went off into the military, and he unfortunately was killed. And Brian wanted to, give back. He wanted to do something for his brothers. He also was seeing a lot of his boys from the Marines come back and just really feeling disconnected and the lack of brotherhood once they're back stateside and needing some extra help, and the camaraderie, and Brian, being a hunter himself, knows the healing power of hunting and fishing. So he founded Wishes, and literally it's a dollar in, dollar out organization, which I also love, because we've all read the stories lately about the big groups like, I don't really need to mention it, that unfortunately don't always have the best accounting practices, shall we say,
Right.
Taking big salaries, throwing lavish parties. This is an organization that's dollar in, dollar out, and it's all about getting combat vets, reconnected. And so after just really believing in their cause and in their mission, and in meeting a couple of the guys that literally told me how it changed their life, how it turned them around, how it gave them something super positive to concentrate on, I decided to get on board. And last year we filmed a couple hunts. And this year we have 3, maybe 4 on the books that are going to be Skullbound episodes.
That's really exciting, encouraging. It makes me feel good, and I love what you're doing. And I think everybody should do more of this kind of stuff. These guys have gone through hell, quite frankly, and to give back to them in some way, to some kind of, it's not really a sacrifice. It's even, I can't call it a sacrifice. We're not really sacrificing anything. I'd do anything to help those guys out. And
there's so many simple little ways we can help too. You can donate your land to have a veteran come hunt on it. You can, of course you can send in money. Money makes the world go round. It makes the organizations that, they have to pay for airline tickets and tags and hunts. And, there's a lot of money that goes behind the scenes of making these things happen. You can they had a banquet in August that I flew to in California. That was a great fundraiser. You can participate in one of those, or you can, if you can't do something of that sort, there's ways to say thank you to guys overseas. Just yesterday, I mailed out a care package over to the Kandahar Air Force Base. It cost me $13.45 to send all my old hunting magazines to.
I swear.
And, I belong to 7 conservation groups. They all have great magazines. And after you look through them, you throw them in a pile, or you throw them on your coffee table, or you watch that DVD a million times, but you're probably not going to watch it too anymore. You gather up your hunting DVDs, your hunting magazines, and for $13, you can send a priority box over to the guys and gals overseas who really, really appreciate a simple thank you like that, much less get to then pass on our passion for our hunting heritage.
that's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
just real quick, I swear to you, I was like, I looked at that post, I was like, Janna rocks.
No, not really. There's just, I get ideas from everybody else too. And I really have always believed in sort of karma. What comes around goes around. What energy you put out comes back at you. And the energy that I've given out to our veterans has come back at me tenfold. Like, it's nice when people say thanks for what you're doing, but really the thanks is, it's overwhelming to me to have the friends that I've made through these groups, and to know that I'm giving back has created such fills my heart. Like I have such a passion for it now, for hunting and for our veterans, and merging the two has been unbelievable.
Wow. Just amazing. So you mentioned the campfire. There's nothing better than a campfire at deer camp.
Right.
But these have to be unbelievable.
I'll tell you what, I could do a whole TV series of just the campfire chats. When you are sitting around, I say men, but I'm hoping to do a couple hunts with some combat female vets that I've met recently. Right. In fact, I met one, Kirsty Ennis is an amazing gal. She was a door gunner. She was overseas, and unfortunately she had to have her leg amputated, but she is just a warrior, and I can't wait to get her on a hunt. I recently met another woman through Instagram who's an Apache pilot that I really want to get on a hunt. So I say men only because I haven't hunted with women veterans yet, but I plan on it.
Right.
But the campfire chats, sitting around with these guys, are, at one moment you're laughing so much your gut hurts, and then another moment we get into something really deep and they're talking about a battle, or they're talking about losing their friends, and your tears are streaming down your face, and it's raw and real, and I'm telling you, if you've never shared a campfire with a combat vet, you've got to, because it will literally change your perspective on our country.
I have to pause there because it's sinking in, just so you know. It's really, it chokes you up. It really chokes you up.
Oh, I'm choked up right now.
Right.
It's hard to explain to somebody who maybe doesn't have friends or family members who are veterans, but on the tough side of things, when you lose your brothers and you've seen your brothers die in your arms, how to come back after that and to just slip back into society. And that's why, unfortunately, we have a veteran suicide rate of 22 a day. You've seen the 22 Kill, which is a great organization, or Mission 22. And I understand it so much better because of those campfire chats and connecting with them. And I get it that it's not as simple as people may think to come back and just slip into regular civvy life. And to be able to share my passion for hunting and fishing with these guys, it might sound really simple, but it's been life-changing for me. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and I every time I bump into a veteran, a friend of mine who's also a hunter, I always feel like it's just important to sit there and talk to them. You know, just to talk to them, just to hear them out.
Yeah.
And it seems to help them in some way. And I cannot even begin to relate what they went through because I have never gone through it, and I don't even want to pretend like I have, because it's impossible to put yourself in their real shoes unless you've actually been there.
Right. I agree. But we can all say thank you. And
yes.
I really, really believe that simple thank you goes a long way.
Yeah. And when I see my friend in the store and I know, he had a rough day, thinking back to the things he went through, I always feel like he feels better because he got to talk to me about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to know that, like with these guys, for example, like I took Mikey Krampitz bow fishing in Kentucky with AMS bow fishing this year. And it was just a bow fishing trip, right? A simple bow fishing trip.
Yeah.
He had the time of his life. He went from the beginning of the week to this kid at the end who was gleaming ear to ear, and AMS presented him the bow so that he could continue on and bow fish where he lived. And seriously, something simple like that was, maybe turned his life around. And Mikey and I probably text once a week, just, hey, what's up? And to have those connections with the guys is really so fulfilling. And it also fulfills me on a level knowing I said thank you in a way, and that he knows that he's important to me and all the other people in his life, but also to know that I'm passing on my passion for bow hunting, for bow fishing, for regular fishing, for fly fishing, whatever it might be, to be able to kind of pass that on to people at the same time has been seriously such a blessing.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing, and keep it up.
Thanks. Necessary.
Very awesome. So I checked the log book here, and what by log book I mean I went and looked at our show notes, and the last time we actually got together. I mean, we've seen each other since the last time you were on our show, but I was going through the notes. It's been almost 2 years since we last talked.
Wow,
on
really?
the show. Can you believe that?
No, that's crazy. I feel like it was 3 months ago.
I know. July 19th, 2014 is when we last spoke.
Oh, wow.
On the show. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. So we've got a lot to fill in here, because I know you've killed some big deer between now and or then and now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I have been really blessed. I have to say, the year 2015, I will never, ever top the year 2000. I don't know how I could top this last year. I've been just so incredibly blessed. Speaking of deer, of course, right off the bat, I got my biggest muley that I've ever shot. And it was a DIY hunt. It was on public land. It was on the first day of the hunt. We put 12.6 miles on in my Kenetrex boots that day.
Wow.
It was a lot of hard work, but it was so rewarding. And I'm really excited. In fact, I had such a good year this year. I had to bump episodes. Like, that hunt hasn't even aired and will air this next season 6 next year in 2017 on Skullbound. So it's kind of nice to be in that boat for a change, where you have such a successful season that you actually have to bump episodes. But last year I got an amazing Kansas buck, whitetail. In fact, that's going to be airing on Skullbound TV, and just a beautiful Kansas came through in the pouring rain, and it was unexpected, so all the more exciting. And we've just really been blessed. I got a humongous moose in Alaska this year. Shot my biggest bear this year with a bow, my biggest bear with a rifle this year. So 2015 will go down in the record books as probably the best year of hunting I could ever imagine.
All right. We need to slow this down a little bit and break it down play by play, I think. All right, so let's talk about your deer hunt that out in Montana. Let's start there.
Yeah.
You had sent me a picture, fantastic buck, and you're going the two bucks that you sent me pictures of, one was Kansas, one was Montana.
Right.
Completely different contrasting terrain, different styles of hunting, different time frames, different weather, I'm sure. Hilly versus flat. I mean, it's just a completely different contrast. Yet you got it done in both spots. And I want to try to break down how you went about each hunt and how you were able to do it in two completely different locations where you were. So let's talk about the Montana hunt first.
Okay.
Where were you hunting?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
Well, not GPS coordinates, but
I'm kidding.
Whereabouts
I'm
were
totally
you?
kidding.
I know.
That muley was muley's from the eastern part of the state, eastern Montana.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, there's a lot of beautiful things about Montana, but one of them that is right up there on the top of the list is the public land hunting opportunities. Literally, if you do your research, and it doesn't even take that much research, you can find great areas for muleys. If you're into whitetails, great river bottoms for whitetail. Actually, even mountain high whitetails. I've shot whitetails where you wouldn't even believe whitetails lived. Antelope. There's just great public land hunting opportunities. Really all you need is Onyx maps. That's two ways to use it. You can put their chip into your Garmin, or they now have a app on the phone called the Hunt app. It basically tells you where you are. It tells you, are you on public or are you on private? If you're on public, what kind of public land you're on, including districts. If you're on private, who owns that private? Its ownership names are right there on the map. Wow. So there have been a lot of times where we've gotten a name, traced them down their phone number, and called them and gotten permission. The muley that I shot this year was straight up public land. But, when you've got that Onyx map in your hand, you just have the confidence of knowing where you can go. And you can also, it's topo. You can see, this looks like a deeper canyon that goes down. Oh, there's a water hole down there. It really tells you a lot in the palm of your hand. And we just hiked out. I had never been in this area before.
Okay.
I was with Jim and his brother Al. Al had hunted this area before, so he was sort of our guide, if you will. But it's still, we went into canyons he's never been in before. And we just basically, you let your glass do the walking. It's a completely different deer hunt than how I grew up in Wisconsin. Sort of, I never even did any deer drives. We were all tree stand hunters,
right.
Both bow and gun. But I'll tell you, this is my 25th year bow hunting, and I've been rifle hunting, I don't know, maybe 15 years. But to come out west 7 years ago and start spot and stalking with a gun for deer and, putting 10, 12, 15 miles on in a day is such a completely different style of chasing big bucks, and really, really rewarding when it all pays off.
That's awesome. Can we go back to the Onyx maps a little bit? This is intriguing. How did you hear about Onyx?
Well, believe it or not, Onyx Maps is right here in Missoula, Montana, where I live.
Wow.
So it's real prevalent in this area, but now they've branched into so many other states. I think they are now in 40-some states where you can download the app for your phone or buy the chip. And it is, if I had to name one piece of, gear that is changed the way we hunt, it's Onyx Maps. Because it allows you so much access to land that you didn't know was public land, or landowner names for private land that you can follow up with. And, a lot of people will give permission to hunt their land. And it really literally has changed the way we hunt.
So you actually get a chip and you put it into your GPS, like a Garmin unit?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, Garmin is the one I use. There's all different models of Garmin's, but you put the chip in, and then you literally, I forgot to mention too, on the phone app, the question I get the most is, what if I don't have cell service? Well, most of the areas that I hunt, some of them don't have cell service, but you usually go back into town like in the evening, or you're scouting from home with the use of your map or the use of Google Earth. And you're like, oh, I'd like to check that area out, or I'd want to check out this zone. You can cache in the map into your phone, and then you don't even need any type of cell service to pull that map up, because all of our cell phones have, GPS monitors inside of them.
Right.
So that is a beautiful factor with Onyx Maps on the Hunt app for your phone, that you can cache in the areas that you want to go explore right into your phone and not have to worry about having cell service.
Gotcha. Is that unique for out west, or do they cover the whole country?
No, on the app, they cover the whole country.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty amazing.
Talk about you don't have to, the research is done for you. You don't have to go door knocking. You still have to, but you kind of know where to start now.
Well, yeah. And especially, if you're like, okay, look at this piece of property, that's public land. I can hunt all of that, and then you can look at it even deeper and really analyze, like, okay, that's real flat right there. That might be a good, bench to start out with. Okay, there's a higher ridge over here. We're going to start out there in the morning and then work our way down through this canyon. Or, oh, there's a, pond over here. They're going to be hitting water in the afternoon. Like, it's not just, oh, yes or no, we can hunt this property or not. It tells you a lot of details that are going to aid in your hunt as well. And then, like, especially, let's say elk hunting, we'll be elk hunting and we're running and gunning all day long in the timber, wondering, like, where does it flatten out? Or let's say we come across an awesome wallow. You can mark the map of, put a little pinpoint on it, or even take a photo on your cell phone so it triggers your brain next year or next week or whatever. And you go, oh, I remember that wallow. I want to check that out. Or I'm going to throw up a climber tree stand there this year. Or, so it is really an amazing tool for the public land hunter.
Wow. Awesome. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. So, I mean, you can be from anywhere as long as you'll know where to go without.
Yeah.
And then,
and especially out west. I mean, I have to admit, I really haven't hunted much of the East Coast. So I haven't hunted much public land in the Midwest where I'm from either. But out west here in states like Wyoming and Colorado and Montana and Idaho and Utah, we have such great public land that the map is a must.
And, this is one of the things, being from the East Coast and hunting the East Coast my entire life, always wanting to go out west. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize there was a tool that you could use, because that's kind of the piece that's always lacking. Like, well, if I go out there, then I got to find a guide and all this stuff. But no, you can do this. No, you drive out there, you take your Onyx app and map and your Garmin, and away you go. And
hey, I was climbing the Rocky Mountain front 2 years ago with Jim. We're looking for elk. I mean, this is major grizzly bear territory. It's the rough Rocky Mountain front. Awesome terrain. We run into two guys from Wisconsin that did exactly that. They drove out in their truck. They had their map systems in place, and they were literally having a blast climbing the mountains for elk on their own.
It's just, it's awesome. It makes me feel like I can do this now. And
you can do this.
I can do this. And I don't, it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg.
Exactly. You don't have to go to some $15,000 ranch,
No. Oh, wow. No. That's fantastic. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to the story. You're hunting with Jim. You're hunting with, was it Jim's brother? Or
Jim's brother, Al.
Al.
A beast. He's like a Cameron Haynes, man. Keeping up with that guy is,
wow.
I mean, we're literally 12.6 miles the day because I got my buck mid-morning, and we were probably, I don't know, 3 miles from the truck, 3.5 miles from the truck in steep canyons. I ended up shooting my buck. I shot him with the 26 Nosler. Went down right away. The footage is amazing. Get over there. All hugs galore. Obviously, take care of the deer. process the deer, put them in our packs. Now we got to hike back to the truck. Well, now we have a 3.5 mile uphill climb to the truck, get back around noon, drop the buck and everything off, and we dive back into the mountains because Al had a tag as well. Well, about an hour before dark, Al finds a buck, and he gets a beautiful, thick, real tall muley buck. And of course, the process starts all over again, field dressing the animal, packing it in our backpacks. Thank God for the Tenzing. Tenzing makes a pack that I'm telling you, if I could carry it, I could put a whole buck in it. But so we finally make it back to the truck. It's dark, and I look at our iPhone app, and we had gone either 12.3 or 12.6 miles that day.
That's insane. So yeah. Tell me about the hunting itself. Is it like run and gun kind of stuff where you're just hiking and moving and spotting, and then you're doing a lot of miles. Well, but you're starting out glassing. You got to let that glass do the work for you. You can't just go bombing off a cliff. You want the upper advantage. You want to be able to see as much as you humanly possibly can. And obviously the deer are going to be bedded down sometimes, and they're going to get up and they're shift a little bit, eat a little bit, lay back down. So you just got to be patient. Well, that's what we did. We parked our butts and started glassing at first light. And it probably wasn't maybe an hour into glassing that we spotted this buck. But unfortunately, he was literally, like with the spotting scope, miles away. And we're talking, he might have been bird's eye a mile away, but then down and up and down and up. It's really canyonous where we were hunting. So by the time you go down one, up another, down one, up another, it takes a while to get over there. And gosh, it was probably 2 hours later, I'm 500 yards across the ridge of this buck who was feeding with a bunch of does, and was able, I got to work the wind, of course, got the wind in our favor. I can't remember how far that buck was, 400 yards, I think. And one shot kill, just pile drived him. And, that was the closest we could get because we were kind of looking over the ridge at him, ridge to ridge, wind in our face, and worked out beautifully. But so then obviously you got the walk back to the truck, take care of the buck, then go glass some more. So it's a lot of glassing. But then once you spot an animal with the spotting scope, typically they're pretty far away and you got to make your move. So it's a bit of both. It's patience with glassing, but it's a lot of footwork. Gotcha. What was the weather like that day?
Well, that was a gorgeous day. It was perfect hunting day. It was probably, mid 30s in the morning, but then it was, maybe 45 that day, sunny, nice out, like perfect. And a lot of times when we're muley hunting out here in the West, it's spitting snow in your face. And, by the time rifle season rolls around, it can be real snowy in the mountains. And but that happened to be not only a great buck day, but a beautiful weather day, too.
It's nice when it comes together. Because the Rockies that can change in a heartbeat. That's just,
you're right. And that's another good point. You got to be prepared. Like in my CF13 Tenzing pack, I've got an emergency kit, extra food, tons of water. You got to stay hydrated, extra coat. We usually pack in mountain houses to get a lot of calories and get a lot of food. Yep. And so you got your burner with you. You got the mountain house themselves. Your pack already has a little bit of weight while you're going in there, and hopefully you're going to make it heavier, of course, but right. You got to be prepared if you're going to do a hunt like that as well.
So do you have to be prepared to go in 12 miles typically? How long does it usually take?
No, I definitely don't. I'm not one of these people who think like you've got to hit the gym every day. And okay. I do hit the gym 3 to 5 times a week, to stay in good shape all year round. But I definitely am not one of these people who think you actually have to be able to run a half marathon to do this kind of muley or elk hunt. I just think you need to, be as prepared as you can, be in really good cardio shape, work your quads on the elliptical or the Stairmaster or the incline with the treadmill. You got to be prepared in that way, but you also don't have to be like a half marathon runner as well. And, if you might see something far off and decide not to go after it. Like, okay, we only got an hour of light left. That's just not going to work out. I've had so many hunt opportunities that we just decided that time-wise, it's going to be too hard. And then we're going to be doing everything in the dark. And so we'll come back the next day. It's all just, you gotta really communicate with the people that you're hunting with and decide if it's worth it. But, you got to also be prepared for going in, because what if you go in a couple miles and you see a buck that you cannot not go after? That's happened too, you know.
That's crazy. So there's some times when you have to say, no, not right now. We're
Absolutely.
running too late. We need a quicker opportunity. We're not going to be back by sundown. We better just call it for the day.
Oh, sure. Or weather's coming in and it's going to be really bad. And, you know, and who knows what the wind is doing over on that canyon where maybe, you know, tomorrow we come back. I've done that where tomorrow we come back and we can't find the buck again. And that's hunting. We all know that. And,
yeah.
But you got to just be able to make that call.
That's awesome. So tell me about how this one played out. How did this all go down?
Well, we started out in the morning. It wasn't that far into our glassing session where Al's the one who actually spotted this buck. And, you know, he had a tag and I had a tag. Jimmy had already shot his mule deer. Jimmy shot a great mule deer. I wasn't with him. He was out hunting with his kids and shot, I'll have to send you that picture too, shot a great mule deer buck, all public land. So it was just Al and I who had tags. And obviously it's his call. We kind of play whoever spots it gets to go after it or gets to make the call whether they want to or not.
All right. That's interesting.
And so
yep.
This buck was so far away that we knew we had to get closer to take a better look. Like, you know, we just couldn't tell through the spotting scope what he really looked like. So we dove off and literally, you know, probably, you know, and you're also afraid when you're making your move to just get a better look that you're not going to bump other game that's going to bump the deer you're after. So there were a lot of does in these canyons that we had to be real careful of. Oh, and we saw, I think 4 bull elk on the way over to them too. Like, it's really cool when you're chasing deer on foot and you see so many other game, like antelope, whiteys, mule deer. We've seen bear while we're deer hunting, elk while we're deer hunting. It's just so neat when you could see other species. But we finally get over there. And when I threw up my glass and looked at him, I knew I would not pass this buck. But again, I'm kind of an itchy trigger finger kind of gal. Like I love the entire process. I'm not one of these who are like, oh, his antlers just aren't big enough. That's not me. I love getting up on him, seeing how close we can get. I love field dressing and like, my dad always jokes about Janna doesn't field dress her deer. She autopsies them because I find it so interesting. You know, I love packing them out and feeling my quads burn. I love, you know, processing the meat and filling my freezer. Like, I love the entire process. And especially when I don't get to hunt with Al very often. So I wanted to share that with him. I knew I was going to take this deer if he passed. And he was like, yeah. You know, Al gets to hunt over there. He lives over there way more than I do. So he's like, yeah, if you'd like to take this buck, you know, you can have a crack at him. So anyway, we worked up to the top of this ridge, and the closest we could get was about 400 yards. The wind was perfect in our favor. It wasn't real windy, which is definitely a concern when you're doing this kind of hunt because, you know, you don't want to make a bad shot. And I've done a lot of training with Nemo Arms, which, you know, I've got a Kestrel. That's another thing that's so different from the whitetails I used to hunt in Wisconsin is you certainly didn't need a Kestrel sitting in your tree stand. And a Kestrel is going to tell you everything you need to know. It's measuring the wind. It's telling you your altitude. It's, you know, I've already got all the ballistics plugged into the Kestrel of the gun I'm shooting, the ballistics of the nozzler ammo. So it's going to spit out a hold for you depending on that wind read and that temperature and altitude read. And so I'm a really pretty confident long range shooter and everything lined up right. The, you know, buck was feeding on a hillside and you'll have to watch, this next season 6 of Skullbound, but it's pretty cool footage.
That's awesome. And the pack out, how did that go down? Did everybody just take their fair share and was it more than one trip or how did that work?
Nope, we actually were able to, we deboned it. So we got all the meat off there. We all had our Tenzing packs on, so they were all fully loaded. It's always the hunter who carries out the cape and the head. So I had that as well as I think a quarter. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the meat, you know, back straps, quarters, everything was all split between all 3 of us. And, you know, it was a heavy pack out. It was straight uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, climbing back to the truck. But I'll tell you, when you've got your little skip in your step and you're so excited it went down and you're reliving it all in your head, it definitely makes the pack out a lot easier.
That's awesome. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely one one hunt that I want to go on someday, and now I can because of what you just told me. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, with Onyx Maps, you can do it too.
All right, Jana, where are we going for the whitetail hunt?
For that whitetail buck, we were in Kansas, and that was kind of a unique opportunity. We had a friend who has a lease out there. He doesn't have a house or, a cabin. He just has land that he leases. And he called us up and said, I'm not able to use my lease. Would you guys want it this year? And yeah, Kansas whitetails, absolutely.
Is that a question, really?
Yeah, really. Yeah. Is this April Fool's? So it was, I can't even remember exactly where we flew into. I go on so many trips. Trust me, I need a map like permanently tattooed to the back of my back of my eyelids. But we, it was really fun because I love whitetails. I mean, I'm from Wisconsin. I mean, I've been literally chasing whitetails for 25 years. And I don't care if it's with a bow and I'm sitting in the warm September air in a tree stand and bow hunting. I don't care if I'm running and gunning with a rifle. I love whitetails, and I think it's just because it's my roots, coming from the Midwest, and much less when you're in Kansas. It's a lot different than where I hunt at my dad's property in Wisconsin. We've got nice deer there, but to see a 140 or even a 130 at my dad's place, that's a good buck. Like we've just never really seen big deer there. We don't have food plots that we hunt off of. It's my dad's cabin. He doesn't get to very often. It's a different style, lots of acorns in the woods, different style of hunt. But this property in Kansas, our buddy had sent us a bunch of trail camera photos, and the bucks they were getting on trail camera were, salivating. I mean, bucks you look at and go, oh, if I saw that on the hoof, and but again, everything's relative. I'm not talking 200 inchers like they have in Kansas. I've never even seen a buck like that on the pad, on the hoof. But a really nice 145, 155 style buck, beautiful symmetrical bucks. I'm all over that. And so it was really exciting to just try to explore it ourselves and see what we would see. It's funny. I actually everybody makes mistakes all the time, and I wouldn't call it a mistake, but the joke with Jim and I is kind of that I do have such an itchy trigger finger. Like I'm not all about the size. Like I don't even score half the bucks I get because I just don't care. I'm like, I don't know, 130-ish, So opening morning, we're watching this coyote mouse out in front of us. We're in a ground blind. Weather's kind of nice and crisp and cold, but not rainy yet. But rain is supposed to come in. We're watching this coyote, and I'm so tempted to shoot this coyote. It's not even funny because I know how many fawns they kill, but I didn't. But while watching the coyote, while filming the coyote, this buck walks in straight towards us from a tree line in the distance, and he is beautiful. But I'm thinking, I'm so excited. You get so excited, and you got to calm down, and you really try to analyze him, and it's really cool because I'm watching the coyote and I'm watching the buck watch the coyote in the same frame, and he's headed on, and that's still a good shot. He was only like maybe 90 yards out. Frontal shot would have been fine, especially with a rifle, but I don't really like to take that shot. I'd like him to turn broadside, and and I'm hemming and hawing over it, and I'm like, God, this is opening morning, and I don't know what else we're gonna see, and I'm maybe getting a little greedy, and nope, I decide this is a beautiful buck and I'm going to take him. But I decided a little too late because all of a sudden, I don't know if he caught movement in the blind or what, but he trotted off and we never saw that buck again. So we have it all on film, and it's kind of funny because that's what I get for being sort of greedy is in retrospect, that was a gorgeous buck and I probably should have taken him, but I didn't, and that's okay. Well, the next 2 days, we really didn't see much at all. And of course, then you think over and over and over again about that opening morning and the one that got away, and you're like, oh, right. And you're feeling down and out. And of course, we saw tons of coyotes, which is not a good thing. But then we went back, we changed up locations a bit, but now the weather had changed and it was drizzly, freezing rain. And
are we still in the ground blind?
Yep, still in the ground blind, didn't have tree stands. And, there's pros and cons. The obvious pro of that day is that we had protection from the freezing rain. I kind of like to be more out in the open. I like tree stand hunting or even ground hunting. You can see so much more. Obviously you got to watch your movement and you got to watch your scent a little more sometimes, depending on the situation. But I'd almost prefer that than a ground blind. But the ground blind was really nice this day because of the spitting rain. But we saw lots of does milling around, and then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, buck, buck, buck. And I could see him coming through, and he was kind of slowly walking. And the second I saw him, I knew he was a shooter. His rack really, on the video, kind of blends in with all the grasses because that's the same color of everything, still brown out. Right. But he's coming in, and I knew that if he was going to present a broadside shot, that this was a buck I was going to take. And slowly but surely worked his way towards us. I call out to Jim, are you ready? He's like, yep, I'm on him. Feel good. When you feel good, take him. And I let the 26 nozzler bark and felt good about the shot. And we obviously gave it a little bit of time and got out in the drizzly rain. And my gosh, that buck it was a heart shot. That buck only went maybe 30, 40 yards and laying right there. And the coolest part is when you walk up on a buck and you don't know he's got all this little trash around his bases.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's got great bases and lots of little sticker points kicking off all over his bases, but just a really pretty, typical 8 with a bunch of trashy bases. And, I just felt super lucky to be able to, kind of explore it on our own and get that buck down.
All right, so is this the same buck that you've seen the couple days prior?
Nope, totally different buck. We never saw that buck again. We were kind of in the same area. I was expecting to see him again, and we never did. And and it was kind of during the rut, but how they can kick on, turn off. We didn't see a whole lot of running action, not a lot of chasing action. But definitely the bucks weren't hanging out together. We did see a lot of does in the area, which obviously made it very promising. But nope, we had never seen that buck either. And that buck that I shot, they don't have him on trail cameras at all.
No kidding, huh?
Nope.
A trespasser buck.
Yeah, a wanderer, a lonely man looking for a new woman.
Right.
A rutting buck, in other words.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Not a homesteader.
No.
That's the cool part about the rut.
Oh, isn't it? I know. I'd love to. I don't. What do they say? How far do whitetails go? I'd love to say. I know their home range is usually 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah,
but
a couple good miles.
Yeah, I think they even probably wander further than that, depending on the doe situation.
We've had biologists describe the wanderer, and there's I actually have friends of mine who have monitored a very large New Hampshire buck, basically roaming about 9 miles on a bunch of cameras and on a 9-mile span. And he's a wanderer. He's one of those wandering bucks.
Yeah, that's super cool to think about. It's so exciting sitting somewhere knowing too during the rut that you don't know what could come walking by. That's so exciting.
That is so exciting.
That's probably what pushes a hunter to go the woods during the rut the most is that unknown buck passing through.
Exactly.
So Janice, since the last show, we've adopted 10 rapid fire questions, and I didn't prep you for this, and I like to keep it that way. Because
okay.
I like the quick answers off the top of your head. That's what they're designed for.
Oy.
So I was wondering if you would be okay with me firing 10 questions at you.
Absolutely. Fire away.
All right. What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know they were going to be hard ones like that.
Well, these are difficult. This is no joke.
Of learning how to work the wind.
Excellent. Good answer. All right. So we all have these things that we bring into the woods with us. If we forget it and we leave it at the camp or in the truck, it drives us nuts and we feel naked if we don't have it with us, whether it's a good luck charm or something else. What's that one thing for you?
I was going to joke and say my release.
But that's important.
Not good. I've done that. I went all the way to Idaho on a bear hunt. We were driving back and forth because we just live over the pass to Idaho. And I literally, on one of the nights, forgot my release. Not good.
No.
I have an extra one in my pack nowadays. But okay, so what's the one thing I don't really have a lucky charm, but You're going to think this is really funny, but off the top of my head, if I'm out of cough, I cough a lot and have like a scratchy throat, probably from talking too much. And if I reach for my cough drops and they're not there, then I panic, and it's always like, then the itch in my throat gets worse and worse and worse. So I guess I'm kind of superstitious with cough drops.
Cough drops. All right. Very nice. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh my gosh, these are like in-depth thought. Oh, this is not like what's your favorite color or anything. I think my biggest pet peeve is when someone's unauthentic. I am really blessed to have so many different types of people as friends. And they're all so different. But what I love about people is when they're authentic. They're their authentic selves. My biggest pet peeve is when someone's trying to be something that they're not.
What would you tell the 20-year-old Jana Waller, knowing what you know today?
Oh, that's a good one. Wow. That's so deep. I don't know. Okay,
very
that's not a tricky question. I would tell the 20-year-old Jana Waller to hang on tight because you are not going to believe where your interest in hunting is going to take you.
Gotcha. Good one. All right, this one's easy.
Okay.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, I got it. A protein bar. It's what I have every single morning. I am on such a morning boring routine, even when because I'm literally on the road half the year, and I just like to make it easy. So I had coffee and a protein bar.
Beautiful.
Low sugar, high protein bar.
Awesome. That is a good one. That's actually come up a few times on the show. People have answered that. So that's a fairly popular one.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Okay, you're at a hunting convention. You're in a lobby in the hotel waiting for the bus to take you to the show.
Okay.
A stranger walks up to you and strikes up a conversation, and they ask you, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
I say that I host a hunting adventure show on the Sportsman's Channel. That's my standard. And then they go, oh, really? And if they've seen it, great. If they haven't, but my number one thing I say after that is it's a hunting show that really features the fact that we hunters are animal lovers and that we're the conservationists of the world and out to really protect what we love.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Okay, you get your own billboard. It's a blank canvas on a highway somewhere in the country. What do you put on that blank canvas?
Say thank you to our veterans.
All right, awesome. I like that one. Mm-hmm. If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
Successful. Oh my gosh. Can we come back to that one?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, what's a day in the life of Jana Waller like?
Well, let's see. Grabbing my ball cap because that's become a big joke to everybody is how I hate to do my hair and live in a ball cap. But really it entails a bunch of things. I run our social media, so that's a really big part of, I think, the success of Skullbound TV is that I run all our, any questions coming through emails or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I answer them because I feel it's really important to give authentic, answers to people. I also post all of our pictures and try to keep everything relevant, up to date, whether it's what our show is airing or what skull I'm working on, or like tomorrow night, I'm heading to Friday, heading to an NWTF banquet, try to keep things relevant. So it's definitely includes social media. My day includes usually working on a skull or an article or something along those lines, or maybe working in the studio with Jim, going over edits or working on a commercial or, my day definitely revolves around Skullbound in some form or fashion. It's always got to have some type of workout included into it. We have a gym in our home. I also live on a really beautiful sort of out in the country where I have a look at the Bitterroot Mountains and that we go for walks and runs. So definitely including a workout in my day, and then back to some social media usually, and then unwinding with just a little bit of unwind time on the couch before doing it all over again the next day.
Very nice. All right, and let's say you're out deer hunting. What's a deer hunting day in the life look like?
That's a really tough question because had you asked me that when I lived in Wisconsin, 7 years ago for my entire life, deer hunting is whitetail hunting and it's tree stand hunting and that's it. When you say a day in the life of deer hunting here out west, it could be anything from sitting in the river bottoms in a tree stand, waiting for a whitetail. It could be running gun in the mountains looking for a muley. We actually have really great public land hunting just near our house where we can take the quad, drive 5 miles up into the canyons, and these whitetails hang way high in the fall here, way high up into the mountains. So if a typical day of deer hunting for me could be anything from bow hunting to run and gun, but it means getting your pack ready and make sure if it is in the mountains that you're prepared for anything. You're prepared to load up your pack and pack it out and hopefully stock your freezer. But it just depends on what type of deer hunting we're doing that day.
Gotcha. All right. And back to the successful question.
Oy. So,
Oy.
Oy, that's a really tough one.
I didn't think we stumped Jana.
I'm surprised, actually. I'm surprised we
stumped you.
You did, because success to me comes in so many different forms and fashions. I know people who I consider incredibly successful because they're happy. They probably don't have a big bank account. In fact, I know they don't have a big bank account. It's not about living in a big home or driving a big fancy truck, but they're happy. And I think that's incredibly successful in today's day and age.
Yeah.
I know other people who are at the top of the game in the hunting industry that are very successful that I admire. And so everyone knows how incredibly challenging it is to find a great career in the hunting industry. So that's success. So I don't know. You have really, really stumped me. Oh my gosh.
I think you've answered the question, actually. I think it's not any one individual. It's somebody, it's a happy person. It's somebody that's actually found peace and happiness doing whatever it is they're doing, and money is not the answer.
Exactly. It is. I can't name one person that right now off the top of my head, but to me, it's a person who truly has inner peace and happiness no matter what they're doing. And it's not about their home or their job title. It's just they have that happiness in their heart. That's success to me.
Right. I agree. Gotcha. Well, Jana, this has been fantastic. I can't thank you for coming back on the show enough. It's always great to catch up and find out where you've been, what you're doing now, and this whole thing with Wishes for Warriors is just mind blowing. So if there's anything we can ever do to support you and the veterans, we're in.
Well, thank you so much. I really sincerely appreciate that. And it's just my way of giving back. There's so many ways that we can all give back and say thank you. And I'm just really blessed to be hooked up with such a great group. I'm heading there tomorrow. I'm actually heading over to Billings to take a bunch of guys on a turkey hunt and hopefully find success there. But I appreciate that. And I want to say a big shout out to all the veterans out there who might be listening, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, that's very cool. Jana, where can the listeners find you when you're not on a mic here with us at the Big Buck Registry?
Well, I'm pretty active on social media, and it's me. A lot of TV show pages have other people running their pages for them, but they can find me on Facebook under Skullbound. They can find me on Instagram. I think you can find me either under Jana Waller or Skullbound there, as well as Twitter. And they can find us on our website, too, at skullboundtv.com.
Perfect.
Awesome, Jana. This has been a pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to chat number 3 already.
I know. And let's not make it a year this time.
No. In fact, I got to come back on and tell you all about my Sitka hunt, because that's technical. Well, it's deer. I mean, some people call them stag, some people call them deer, but it's on the East Coast. It was free-range Maryland hunt that was amazing. We got to talk about that someday.
All right. We'll do a whole show on Sitka hunting, and we'll have you be one of the participants.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. It was such an amazing hunt.
Very cool.
Let's do it.
Excellent. And tell Jim thank you very much for his tech support tonight, and tell him I said hi.
I will. I'll do that. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Jana.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Jana Waller is just such a class act. I love having her on the show, and she's such a positive person. She's just a positive role model for this industry. I wish I could hang out with her more, because I think I'd learn a lot more from her, but she's just one of those people that just kind of gets you excited about hunting day in, day out, and about life.
No doubt about it. Just she puts others in front of herself, and that speaks volume in my eyes.
Yep. And there was people in the world that just make you feel better about yourself, and she does that. And she does that for all kinds of people, not just hunters, but it kind of gets you back in perspective of what life's all about, and that's what she does so incredibly well.
Oh, no doubt about it. You know, when you take the time and put the effort into taking out a wounded soldier that's come back from the war or wherever it may have happened at, and you put that time and effort into taking him on a hunt of a lifetime, and that to me is just, you know, it's priceless. Really, that's something that we all should take in consideration, and maybe try to, if you got the land or access to the land and you got time to help out a wounded soldier, and take them on a hunt.
Yeah. If you know somebody, you know, just ask them if they want to go hunting. I bet they'll go with you. So just fantastic. Love Janna to death. She's just a fantastic person. So Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
We do have a Chubby Tines tip of the week.
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
Seems like that questions are coming in about tree stand setup and you know, playing that wind direction. And that's something that, you know, I take into factor no matter how big the woods or how small the woods, or if you're hunting a tree line, or if you got yourself set up and for some reason the deer are coming towards you and they just blow out, and, you know, that wind's getting you. You know, no matter how hard you try or how much effort you put in the scent control, there's still that human odor that, whether there's something on your clothing or your socks, or, you know, there's just always that one scent that'll get you busted. And really take into consideration when you set in tree stands about the wind direction, and that will take your hunt to the next level.
That's a great tip. You know, I was actually thinking about scent during one of my recent turkey hunts where I was working through the pricker bushes, and I was amazed at how much I could get away with and how close I could get simply and make noise. You couldn't do that with a deer, not in a million years. You know, I got bug spray on and I'm making all the sound. Deer won't do that, but turkeys will hang out because if you approach it correctly. Just a much different style, but yeah, scent is huge. Well, thanks to Jana Waller for joining us on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. Thanks to Jim Morse over at Morse's Sporting Goods for being a sponsor on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. Dusty, when you're not hanging out here with me on the microphone, where can we find you?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com, or hit me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, where can the folks reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
A few different places. If you want to touch base with me directly, it's jay@bigbuckregistry.com. You can always check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Big Buck Registry. Same goes for Twitter, Big Buck Registry. Instagram, same thing, instagram.com/Big Buck Registry. Give us a call at 724-613-2825. Leave us a voicemail. Let us know if there's somebody you want us to talk to on the show, somebody you want us to interview, a topic you want us to cover. I think one of the things we're going to do pretty soon is we're going to try to do like a round table for beginners, people who are just starting to get into hunting. I mean, we've talked about people who have been doing hunting for a while, and I think this is kind of that next level. But I think we need to have a show about the first-time hunters, and that is all based off of an email that we got from a listener. So he wants to know more about the things they need to know to get started, basically. So that's coming up at some point. If you'd like to, please do so. Subscribe to the show on iTunes. Leave us a review on iTunes by going to the search bar and searching for Big Buck Registry. If you'd like to become a donator to the show, become a patron of the show, go to bigbuckregistry.com/donate, and you can see all the different levels of rewards that we have there for you, and that's bigbuckregistry.com/donate. Well, Dusty, this has been a fantastic show, and we'll do it again next week.
Oh, man, I can't wait to do it again next week, Jay, and you don't want to miss a show, because you just never know who we're going to have on next. And really, thank you guys for tuning in every week. Man, we much appreciate that. Well, I'm Dusty Phillips.
And I'm Jay Scott.
And this is another great episode of the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.